Way to go, John.
All right, here we go. Cinco de Mayo. Wow.
Yeah.
How about that? That's my nephew's birthday. I'm going to have to shoot him a text.
Ooh, yeah. Happy birthday, nephew.
In fact, I just heard about a new book this morning. I'm not really a big book guy myself, not a big reader. I would prefer other things like fishing or catching, rather.
Yeah, catching is good.
Yeah, absolutely. But this particular book might be worth a read. And let me see if I can find it. I'll put it in the chat for you guys if anybody is interested. But from the description of it, one of my guys that I work with was telling me about it. And I'm like, it sounds an awful lot like the ACT program. But they were talking about a guy's process of selling $1 million accounts and knowing who exactly to sell it to. And this friend of mine that was telling me about it, he was telling me, he goes, my God, I'm 2 chapters into it. And I just realized I've been selling to the wrong people. And I'm like, oh, you think?
And he's in your crew.
Yeah. It's like, my God, how many times do you have to hear this from, and sometimes it just takes somebody else's voice.
Yeah.
To hear it. So anyway, I'm going to look up, he just Skyped me the address of it. And what I found, I went on, I was actually going to buy it for my nephew because apparently the guy that wrote it, he does a lot of business in the fitness industry with like trainers and stuff. And that's what my nephew's done. He's opened a business and personal training in Texas. So anyway, I thought it'd be a great birthday present for him. But I've got the link there. I just put the link in the chat. And it's about how to write an offer that people would feel stupid saying no to. That's what it's all about. And the cool thing, as you guys know, I'm not a big reader. When I went in there to order it for them, I noticed that they had the audio version.
Oh,
so
cool.
I will be getting the audio version and listening to it myself. So just for the heck of it. So the Amazon link to it is in the chat there. It's $100 million offers people would be stupid to say no to. And it's how to craft that offer. So,
but wouldn't it be interesting, John, if you could collaborate with him and refer everybody to ACT?
Yeah, that would be really cool. I can recommend people on his book and he can recommend them back to ACT. That would be right. Yeah, that is great thinking. That's a great thought process. Always be looking for people that have your audience. Those make great affiliates. So speaking of great affiliates, I made another affiliate connection this week. And again, this is just about keeping your eyes open to the opportunities around you. And when you walk through life looking through those goggles, you'll be amazed at how many opportunities are just right under your nose. So we're working on a new version of SitePop that focuses on GMBs, which is the Google My Business. It's the free pages that Google gives out to every business owner. And they're really powerful because they're on a Google property. And as you know, Google loves its own stuff. So if you want to get in front of people, that's a good way to do it, is to have every possible opportunity for your customers to find you. So having your website is great. That's a great thing to do. It's a great thing to have. But to have the free website called Google My Business that Google gives out to any business owner, you'd kind of be foolish not to do that. And a lot of people have said, well, I have a national business. I don't have a local business. Why? That wouldn't work for me. Well, that's not true. Any business it works for. It does not have to be a local business. A lot of people get focused one of the things that people equated that Google My Business page to local business is because traditionally it's been a cheaper thing in the optimization world. Like a lot of people have found that are doing SEO and selling SEO to businesses, they've found that the little businesses, the local businesses, really can't afford industrial strength SEO. So what they can afford is they can afford a service to set up that Google My Business account for. So I think that just that piece alone has kind of branded it and put a label on it that this is for local businesses, when it's really not. It's for any business. I don't care what you do. Having that gives you another property for people to find you. So, and there's a lot of pieces to it. It's not just that one GMB page. And if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, if you look up a company name, a lot of times you'll have the map listings. There'll be like 3 to 5 listings for maps. And then over on the right side of it, you'll have the actual branded company's big, I don't know what they call it, a big piece on the right side. It's like a monarch, and it's got the picture of the business, or, you know, whatever you put in there is your main photo. It'll have a map with your location pin stuck in it, and then all of your information, whatever information you put in there. And that's part of the optimization, is filling out the form. I mean, that's all you have to do to really optimize that page, is fill it out. You know, if you're 10% filled out versus somebody that's 90% filled out, who do you think Google is going to feature? They only feature one. So who do you think it's going to be, right? That's what optimization is all about on every level, is who has the best option for Google to display. They need to display something, and they're going to look at who's the best choice for me to display. So that's where optimization comes in. That's where if you have a website that's just one page, that's not really their best option in most cases. If you have a website that has 10 pages and a picture on each page, there's no text, again, that's not a very good option for them to want to display. They want to display the best content. They want to supply the best user experience. So if you've got stuff that's irrelevant, if you've got stuff that's incomplete, you are not the best choice. So don't expect them to just send a barrage of business your way unless you're competing for it. You have to look at for every keyword out there. And when I say a keyword, that could be any combination of words. It's not just single words. It's in most cases phrases. The longer the phrase, the more specific the phrase is, that means that somebody that's searching for a very specific phrase is more likely to purchase than somebody searching for a one-word keyword, right? And I've used this example for over a decade now with the word tires. If you are in the business of selling tires and you use the keyword tires, the experience that someone on the other end is going to get when they type in tires, you can do this. If you put tires in Google, you're going to find you get all kinds of results. You might get truck tires, bike tires, go-kart tires, tires for for your kids' Barbie doll, whatever. You're going to get all kind of weird shit. It's not specific. You're just kind of throwing it out there. Hey, tires. It's almost as if you're researching the industry. So Google is going to come back with a whole bunch of stuff so you can get more specific. And then when you click on a certain thing, it knows, okay, they were interested in that. So the next time they display for you, they're going to take that, their AI is going to take that into account the next time you run a search. It's also going to learn on a grand scheme of what the general public wants by the masses. So that's how these brands are coming up at the top. People know the brand to search for it. So back to the tire thing. If I were looking for, let's say I wanted to buy tires. This is an example of the user experience from beginning to end. So say I want tires for my Ford Expedition. So these tires, I don't know how big they are. I'm not a tire guy, but they're probably 15 or 16 inch tires, right? So that's what fits my car. So the first thing I do is put tires in and I see, oh my God, okay, this is not what I was looking for. And then I realize, okay, I really want a Goodyear steel belted radial. So now I've just adjusted my phrase. I'm telling Google, hey, I'm a little more specific here. So when I put in the 15, or I put in the steel belted radial, Goodyear steel belted radial, now I get them back in all sizes, right? 99% of those are not going to fit my car. So what do I want to do? Do I want to page through 100 listings and try and figure it out on my own? No, I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do, I'm going to get more specific. I'm going to say Goodyear steel belted radial in a 16 inch, right? That's the one that fits my car. And then they're going to come back with those results. And they're going to give me all the options of where I can find these. Now, they might be listing these things in New York City, right down the street from me, the other side of the world. But no, I want one in Huntington Beach. I don't want to drive across the country to get a tire, right? I want one in Huntington Beach. So now my search string just went from tires to Goodyear steel belted radial 16 inch Huntington Beach. I'm very, very specific on that last search. And guess what? I have the credit card in my hand and I'm ready to buy that tire. So this is a lesson to you on a lot of different levels. One, it's a lesson about being specific. It's also a lesson in search optimization. If you're optimizing for a client, where do you want to spend your money? Do you want to spend your money optimizing for tires where you're going to fight with the entire world to get a listing for tires? No, you don't. That's money not well spent. You want to spend your money on that very specific term that there's only a handful of people fighting for. It's going to be an easy win. And what I tell people, you don't want the guy on his first search. You want the guy on his last search. Nobody buys on the first search. They all buy on the last search. So that's where you want to show up in front of them. Figure out what is their last search and optimize the shit out of it. Because that's where your money is going to come from. It's always going to come from the last search. Now you have an opportunity. This goes back to the pyramid of awareness. If you guys remember the pyramid of awareness in the lessons, where is that in the pyramid? It's in the very top of the pyramid. That's where the last search lives. The base of the pyramid is completely unaware. If your audience is completely unaware of what you do, search isn't for you because they're not searching for it. I can't fix that problem. That is not a problem that's solvable. So if your audience is in the unaware section of the pyramid, you have to find some other way to get in front of them to make them aware other than search. Right? There's a lot of other ways to do that. We've had, many of those conversations before. But here's the other thing. The opportunity at the bottom of the pyramid in the unaware space is your largest opportunity. When you get up there into the very tippity top of that pyramid, your opportunity is limited to those that have made the journey, those that have done the research, and those that are ready to buy. There's far fewer of them, but they're the ones you're going to get the money from. The other thing that you might do to increase your sales, because you can't increase the top of that pyramid. It's only so big, right? It's only the people that have made it up that far. But what can you do to increase your sales? You can increase the number of people that enter that space. So the way to do that is to go further down the pyramid, capture their attention, use the big idea to grab their attention, bring them into your marketing funnel, and you be the one that educates them to the final search. Educate them in what they need, why they need it, why you are the only solution for them, and take them by the hand and walk them up the pyramid to the top. That's where you're going to sell to them. That's where your conversion is going to happen. Does that make sense? That's the sales process. It's all about, and the other thing is what this book is about, or I haven't read it yet, or I haven't listened to it yet, but it's about figuring out who your ideal customer is, because you don't want to lead a bunch of people to the top of that pyramid that you don't like, that are going to drive you nuts and are going to destroy your peace of mind or whatever. You don't want that. So again, there's a lot of pieces to this puzzle. ACT is pretty much all encompassing of the way a business operates from beginning to end. If you haven't pieced that together yet, it dovetails into everything. It dovetails into your product development, your market placement, the whole enchilada. It's the way ad agencies do this. It's the way they can take a no-name product and turn it into a household name. They can take companies from nowhere to household names. And they do it the same way, and they do it the same way every time. They figure out who is the most profitable segment of that market. And then as a business owner, you have to decide, do I want to serve that market? Is that section of that market going to be what I enjoy? Is that going to be an absolute nightmare? Can I hire the people if it's a nightmare so I don't have to deal with it? That happens a lot. Business owners, true business owners, are rarely involved in the business. Or I should rather say scalable, successful business owners, the ones that move up the chain, the ones that become $100 million businesses. They're not working in the business. Very rare that they're turning the screws, right? They're running and driving the strategy. They're driving the alliances. They're doing the heavy lifting with their heads, not their backs, right? They have other people to do that. So, in ACT, these people, what I've found, because I know a lot of these guys, I know a lot of people that have scaled their businesses up to massive businesses. And it's interesting when you talk to them, you'll find that they walk through life wearing these goggles that I talk about. They know what true opportunity is for them. Not to say that, you might have different opportunities that don't look good to them, but look good to you. But they have these goggles and they've tuned themselves in to what they want and what they don't want. And they look for those opportunities. And it's amazing how easy they are to find when you know what you're looking for. If you don't know what you're looking for, everything looks like an opportunity. And the truth is, most of it's a disaster. When I was much younger, I would jump onto anything that dropped in front of me. Yeah, that's a great idea. Let's do it. And, you spend days, weeks, months. I never really was one to spend years on something, but I spent a lot of months on things that never went anywhere. And looking back on all of that, if I would have had the goggles, I never would have wasted that time. We only have so much time. You have time and you have money. Those two things equate to freedom. You've got to have both. You don't get true freedom without both. It's not one without the other, right? You can have all the money in the world. If you're working in that business as a job, you're not free. You have no time, right? You can have all the time in the world. and no money to do what you want when you have the time, that's not freedom either. You've got to have both. You got to have a lot of both, right? If you want real, true freedom, you need a lot of both. So that's what you've got to look at as far as opportunity. If you're just looking for stuff to do, that's a job. That's truly a job. Not to say that you don't need to work to get to where you need to go. It's not like you're magically transported there and you got this scaled business. You have to scale it. You've got to get in and you've got to build the systems. There's famous examples of this. Like Ray Kroc, famous examples. You've got who's the other one? Carl Karcher. These guys are not flipping burgers. They're developing systems for the burgers to be flipped. They're developing scalable businesses, how they can build 100 restaurants and have them all work exactly the same without them being on site. They're business owners. They're working on the business. You've probably heard this before. You work on the business, not in the business. That's what that means. It means you're working on the systems. You're working on the sales channels. You're working on finding profitable markets, profitable segments, and creating products that serve those markets. So, I've said this a million times. Money makes the world go round, and sales make the money that makes the world go round. So the biggest thing that you can do is look for problems that you can solve. Because if you can solve problems, you can make sales very easily. Nobody buys on if they don't have a problem, or you don't provide a solution for something, right? And it doesn't, you can look at problems in any way. Like Ray Kroc looked at the problem of people are hungry. They need lunch. They need it fast. They need it convenient. That was a problem that he solved. How do you walk up to a window and walk out with a burger in 30 seconds? That's exactly the same whether you order it in New York City or Huntington Beach. You cannot tell the difference between that burger, right? And wherever you go, anywhere in the world, it's in your hot little hand in 30 seconds. That is a beautiful system. So finding a problem, the bigger the problem, that problem's worldwide. Hunger, it's everywhere. It happens multiple times a day and it doesn't go away. It's been going on since the beginning of time, and it's not going to stop anytime soon. So again, looking through the goggles, looking for those kind of opportunities. Where are your problems that equate to hunger? Those are scalable. It's a very large market. It might not be your ideal market. If you're a super chef and you create creations that people are willing to pay hundreds of dollars for, you're not looking to put it in their hand in 30 seconds. You're looking to supply an experience for those in that category. That's a much smaller segment of the market, but it's much more profitable. You could make a tremendous amount of money with much fewer people. The more people you have to deal with, the bigger the headaches are. Again, I'm not saying that they're your headaches, but they do roll up the hill. Whoever you have in place, you are first going to have to figure out how to get through something. You're going to have to figure out, and then you're going to have to teach that below. If you truly want to scale, you've got to know how to teach people how to do something. So you got to figure it out, or you got to find somebody. Maybe you hire somebody that is a systems expert. If you surround yourself by people that are smarter than you, you will do well. They talk about you don't want to be the smartest one in the room. you want to be the most wealthy one in the room because you can afford to hire the smarter ones. So anyway, I don't even know how we got on that topic, but what do you guys want to hear about? I can go any direction you want. Sometimes I get going on something and I'm not sure if that's what you guys want to hear about. Anybody got something for me? Oh,
Don, it was helpful to have the reminder about how the ACT program is so applicable for all of us all the time. Thank you.
yeah. It's absolutely, it's every level of business. It starts at the beginning and it goes right to the end. The only thing it doesn't show you is what to do with the money. What do you do with all the extra time? That we leave that for you to paint that picture for yourself. So Jim, did you have something there?
Yeah, my brain is going to list building, and it may be some repetition, but
no,
that's where the gold is, I think.
That's an important piece of the puzzle because they talk about a pipeline. When you talk about, when you take your conversation to the sales part of the business, they refer to that as a pipeline. And any sales process, this is another reason why they use the word funnel. You've got a large opening at the top and then it funnels down to, where people drop out the end of the funnel. Those represent sales. So for you to get somebody to drop out the end of the funnel, you have to have a lot of people going in the top end. They swirl around and then eventually one will pop out the other end. But it might be 100 in the top to one out the bottom. So list building, that falls under prospecting. And they say, sales like dating, it's a numbers game. You're going to ask enough times to get a yes, right? It's like that old school commercial about the Tootsie Pop. How many licks does it take to get to the center of the Tootsie Pop? It's the same idea. Yeah, you can get aggressive and bite your way there, but and some people do. But that is why prospecting and lead generation, list building, it's the same thing. That's what they call it in the real world, is prospecting. It's like, there's a lot of different phrases for it. Press the flesh. They send people out into the real world to talk to people, networking, all kinds of examples of it in the real world. When you move into the online space, it's referred to as list building. So for you to build a list, it all comes back to the same thing. You need the mechanisms in place. Somebody has to do that transactional piece of talking to your prospects. So how do we do that in the online space? It's the big idea. The big idea, like it equates to your elevator speech in real life. When you approach someone or they approach you, it's a, hey, how's it going? What do you do? Right? That's usually the opener. What do you do? If you don't have a canned response for that, you're wasting your time in the position of list building or prospecting. You're wasting your time. You're wasting your opportunities. That's why they say elevator speech is so important. In our world, it's the big idea. The big idea replaces your elevator speech. So as you know, in the elevator speech, it's supposed to be very short. It's supposed to be like 30 seconds or less, just like the big idea. It's very short. It's just to grab attention. That's its only purpose. One of the biggest faults that people make is they get somebody that will talk to them and they talk their ear off. You're not supposed to do that, right? It's like you're throwing little bombs. It's not like you're not trying to get married here on the first date, right? You're just seeing if there's a fit so you can come back and make a more meaningful meeting in a different place that's a lot quieter and a lot more intimate, right? It's very similar to dating. So remember, these people, when you meet them at an event or anywhere, they're moving fast. Business owners, they don't grow moss. They don't sit still. They're moving fast. So you have to capture your opportunity, grab their interest, and agree to continue the conversation at a later time. That's your goal. It's the same thing on the online space. You're grabbing their attention. They're moving fast, just like in the real world. So you have to grab their attention so you can continue the conversation at a later time. That's why you have to get them to opt in, right? That's the similarity between the real world and the online world. You've got to get them to opt in. Now, in the real world, your goal of that meeting, your goal of the elevator speech is to get them to agree to a future meeting, right? That's where your presentation takes place. It's like, hey, I'd love to show you how this works and see if it's going to be a good fit for you. Can we meet next Tuesday? I've got an opening, right? That's your scarcity. I've got an opening. It's the only one I have available next week. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll take that, right? So all of this shit that works in the real world, it works over here too. You just have to be very aware of what it is. You have to be very aware of what it is that you're doing in the real world that works, because if you are, you can replicate it. If you just kind of bumble along and you don't know what you're doing or why it works or whatever, it may be a really hard time for you to reproduce that because you're unaware of what you're doing and why you're doing it. So you've got to be aware. You've got to open your eyes up. When something works, take a mental note of it. Look at it when you get, when you're aside by yourself, and ask yourself, wow, that was really cool. Why did that work? What did I do? And then try it again. If it works again, now you're on to something. If it works over and over and over, now you've got a system. Document it so you can teach it to someone else to do for you. And then you don't have to do it again, right? That's why we build a funnel. You figure out what works, you digitize it, and you walk away and you let it work 24/7 for you. So it's really cool, but it's all on the front end of it is that lead generation. And that is about the big idea. So that is one of your biggest things that you should focus on building a skill set is how do you create big ideas? And here's something that I want to get through everybody's head. You don't just need one big idea. You could use 10 different big ideas. They're all angles of what somebody might be interested in. You don't have to have 10 products to go with them. A product and a big idea are not one-on-one. You might have one product and you might have 50 big ideas. You might have one product and you might have 10 different market segments, right? You have to speak differently to each one. You might have a service that works for attorneys. That same service might work for chiropractors. I guarantee you an attorney and a chiropractor are not on the same wavelength as far as their language, as far as their secret words, their industry terms, their slang. You have to speak differently to both of them. That's two different big ideas for the same product. That's a perfect example of it.
You just did that, John, with your ad that you ran for the golf course.
Yes.
Can you take that same idea, because you just sparked an idea with me as well. Oh, dear God, help us all. But can you take that same copy and change it ever so slightly and show us how you would hit a different audience?
Yeah, you could potentially just change one word.
Show us, show us, show us, show us.
Here's a perfect example. If you had a dentist, for instance, and you had a 7-Eleven. So let's say, what is the one word difference between if you were a liquor store trying to get customers and you were a dentist trying to get patients? That's your difference in the word, patient versus customer. Liquor store doesn't want patients. They have none. Right? and a dentist doesn't think about customers. He wants patients. Right? Patients are important to him. Customers that's a meaningless term. So that would be your potential one word difference. You have to be tuned in to who you're talking to and what their language is. That's where in the avatar lesson, I have that big avatar sheet. So when you're filling that out, it's not just for an exercise for you to start writing. It's an exercise for you to have an understanding of who you're talking to and what's important to them. What language do they speak? We all speak different languages. Different things are important to us. Different things have different meanings, and you have a lot of these. One big idea is not going to cut it for you. The more of them that you have, the more opportunities you have to list build, right? Because as you know, if you have 10 people in front of you and you say the same thing to all 10 of them, one of them might be interested. So your challenge is, what can I say to the other 9? So I can have 10 people interested instead of 1, right? A good salesperson is very observant. A good salesperson is going to take a look at your surroundings. They're going to look at, all kinds of stuff. They're going to pick up on things. Like if a salesperson comes to your office, he's not just sitting there looking in your eyes, right? He's looking at what's on your desk. He's looking at what's on the wall behind you. Somebody walks into my office and they don't mention that fish behind me that's 10 feet long. They're an idiot. I'm telling them what I'm into. I'm telling them what's important to me. If you've got pictures of your family on your desk and they don't make reference to that, they're an idiot. They're in a coma. They're sleepwalking, right? They're not doing their job. So it's understanding. Like if I've got a fish on my wall and I don't have pictures of my kids and they go into a standard thing talking about their kids, I don't give a shit. I don't relate. I know it sounds harsh, but it's the reality. If you want to get more people into your funnel, you need more big ideas. You need to appeal to all of them, not just one. You're alienating the rest. That's why if you get on somebody's list and they send you an email and you don't respond, guess what you're going to get? You're going to get another email. Hopefully it'll have a different subject line because you weren't interested in the first one, right? If they send you the same subject line, they're an idiot. If they're trying to move you to the next step and you didn't respond and they keep doing it, it's the meaning of insanity, doing the same thing, expecting a different result, right? You got to swap it up. But you'll notice they do this. They'll send you another one. It'll have a different subject line. It'll be a different angle. It's the second shot at trying to get you to move. And if they didn't do that, there's another one and another one and another one. They will keep coming till they figure out your code. They'll figure out what's important to you. And then if they're really smart and not lazy, for me, it's the lazy part that I fall victim to. But if they're really smart and not lazy, they will tag you. They will tag you based on which one you responded to. And now they have a little piece of intel attached to your customer record or your prospect record. So guess what? When they send another email sequence out next time and they segment the list and they go to the tags and they are specific to the tags, their conversion rate will go through the roof, right? That would be like a salesperson making a follow-up call, forgetting about the fish on my wall or forgetting about the pictures of my kids, right? It's not very personal. It's like you're going to meet them and it's almost like you're meeting them for the first time, but you've already spent time with this person and they didn't remember you. It's pretty freaking rude, right? It's like they don't even deserve to be in front of me a second time if they don't remember our first conversation, right? How would you feel? How would you feel if somebody came in for a second time and they just disregarded everything you talked about the first time? You'd be going, this guy's out of here. Well, I got to tell you, it's no different in the online space. That's what your tags are for. Your tags is so your sequence can remember and talk to them about what's important. I swear to God, if you just do that, it's going to change the game for you. It's a lot of work, though. You're probably going, God, that sounds like a lot of work. And it is, but you only have to do it once. That is the beauty of these funnels. If you treat everyone through the first time, like let's say you get a new customer, it's your first one, or you new prospect and it's your first one. If you follow through with that person and you treat them like they're the only one you're ever going to get, and you have to give them the gold level service, and your existence depends on them, their outcome, their being happy. And you document that process, and now you've got it so everyone through your funnel is going to get that same experience. What do you think that's going to do for your business? And now you're on the beach playing with the dolphins while that system is working for you. It's hard to do the first time, but you only have to do it once, and now you're off to the races. That's where you get your freedom. The thing's making money and it's giving you time. You have time to spend the money. That's freedom. You're only going to get there if you're willing to do that work. I'd love to give you a better scenario, but I can't. I don't know it. If you guys know a way other than that, I am all ears. I would love to know the secret of how you get there without that. Yeah, that's why there's so few people. There's so few people in business that don't just have a job they created for themselves. You look at 99% of small businesses, it's not really a business. They can't walk away from it. It's just a job they created for themselves. And if they walk away, the business collapses. I mean, think about it. If you are in a situation where you leave for 2 weeks, let's say you go on vacation, you get on a plane and you just leave for 2 weeks and you don't check in, would you be able to come back and have things the way you left them? If you can, then you got a real business. And if you can't, you probably have some level of a job.
It should actually be better when you get back because you're not there messing with it.
Exactly, Richard. That is exactly right. And I know it's a really shitty reality. It really is, because most of us are there. I mean, even me to a certain extent. You know, I don't have the big team that I once had. I used to have offices in Newport and I had, people running the show, and I really didn't need to be there. And I took advantage of that. I went off and I spent 3 weeks in Europe, and you're right, Richard, when I came back, things were better than when I left. because I had the team, I had trained the team and all of that, and everything was cooking along. So that's the way it's supposed to be. So anyway, yeah, Jim, go ahead.
Yeah, it looks like Molly had a great question in the chat.
Oh, okay. Let me take a peek here. Okay, I know SitePop will improve organic rankings, but does it also improve Google Maps rankings? That's the short answer is no. The long answer is yes. Because what happens if you have your map as part of your Google My Business account, if you connect the Google My Business account to your website, like if you enter, I was talking about filling out and optimizing the profile. One of the pieces to that is putting your website in. So you connect your website to your GMB. The more you optimize your website, that trust factor flows through onto your GMB and onto your maps. It doesn't do it directly though. So that was why my short answer was no and the long answer was yes. It does have a positive effect on everything attached to it. So we are, in fact, I wasn't really supposed to say it, but our new version of SitePop that just released this morning has a GMB component in it that we're going to be working this afternoon on putting the process together so we can release it and let you guys test it. And that's going to be our next rollout, is sending signals over to the GMB side. We've also got another product that we're about to release that is specifically for the Google Maps rankings, because we've found that if you increase any piece of the puzzle, the positive effect flows through to all the other pieces. So using SitePop for the GMB, using our new product for the maps, and using SitePop also for your website, with the triple punch effect, it should be really devastating in a good way, in a positive way. So, okay, second part of your question, trying to set up for a client. There is an attorney. Okay, so as far as his website being a good candidate, the stuff I look for in a website, in fact, when I'm selling this as a retail service to somebody like what you're talking about here, I actually tell them that they can only buy the service if they qualify. And I have certain things that I have as requirements to qualify. One of them is the site has to be secure. It has to have an SSL certificate. If it doesn't qualify. The other one is it's got to be responsive. It's got to be mobile friendly. You know, it has to resize to the different browsers and all that. And if they've got an old out of date site, then again, I tell them they don't qualify. I'm doing this for a couple of reasons. The first reason is obvious. You don't want to take on a client that you can't help, right? If they're not doing their part in optimization, that's not a good client for you to take on. If they are doing what they can and all that, then it's your obligation to help them, is the way I see it. But the other reason that I do that, the other reason I have that qualification, is I have a web development team that can solve that problem for them. So usually when I tell somebody their site doesn't qualify, I will tell them what they need to do to fix it. I will tell them, go back to your webmaster, just give them this list of stuff and have them fix it for you. And more than 9 out of 10 times, they turn right around to me and they say, well, can you do it for me? And now I've got a web development customer. Now I've got a hosting customer. And it opened the door to a whole lot more business effortlessly. So that's the second part of the reason why I do that. I want to make sure that I can help them, for one. I don't want to take somebody on I can't help. And I want to make sure that I'm helping them in the right way, giving them everything that they need. and it increases my business. It increases their results. So that's why I do it that way. So anyway, Molly, if there's anything else, or if you want to come out, unmute and ask away, you're welcome to do that. I can go as deep on stuff as you want. Okay, so he has a second GMB. Okay, so yeah, having multiple GMBs attached to multiple websites, I prefer to have one website with everything under it, which it looks like that's the way it is. It's just DC DUI attorney under the same domain. So that's a good thing to do, good way to go. On our Maps product, one of the things that it's going to do is it's going to increase the ability to rank in multiple areas, which is it's been a big challenge for people that are doing optimization in GMB. And it's funny, the guy that developed the system winds up, he was one of my students from like 20 years ago. One of the guys I originally trained in SEO is now coming back and teaching the teacher, which is awesome. Because I never spent much time in that area. I was always on the other side of optimization, working for, big corporate customers. And he broke the code on this local stuff, on the GMB stuff, and built a system that we're now integrating into ours. So it's really cool. But let's see, he has 2 map embeds. Yeah, I'm not really sure the answer to that question on how the map embeds work. I'm going to probably know a lot more about this in the coming weeks and months, because I'm going to be working with this guy to integrate these systems for the maps rankings and and the GMB. So stay tuned on that. I'll probably have some much better answers for you in the very near future on that stuff. But I've seen the way it works, and it gets phenomenal results. Every time he connects this process to people's GMBs, he's got case study after case study of the phone just ringing off the hook from it. So it's really cool, really powerful stuff. And if you're working with localized customers like these attorneys and dentists and doctors, chiropractors, all this stuff, even plumbers, if you can make their phone ring, they just absolutely fall in love with you. And they keep coming back. When you have a customer like that too, I want to hit this. This is really important for scaling your business and making it easy, keeping the pipeline full. Like Jim was talking about, how do you prospect? There's no better way to prospect than when you get a customer and you take them through and you fulfill and they are happy. That's a perfect time for you to ask them not only for an endorsement or a review. A review is great, but what you really want is you really want their personal referrals. You want introductions. You want Joe to introduce you to Bob, right? That is 100 times better for you than just some generic referral or a review or even a video testimonial. If they take you by the hand and introduce you to somebody, that's like somebody put me on a webinar. They're passing their authority right on to me. It's like it's raining down over me. And you can do sales under those circumstances effortlessly. Because if you can get Joe to introduce you to Bob and say, yeah, Bob, I just had this spectacular experience. You got to meet John. He can do this for you too. Do you think I'm not going to make a sale on that conversation? I'm not even going to have to try. I'm not even going to have to go into the details. It's just off his friend has had success, and now he's handing it to me on a silver platter. Right? If you do that, you're going to scale like nobody's business. And you have this certain point. Whenever you have a new customer, you always have this sweet spot. And it's the first time you hand them success. That's the first time they get that feel good, that good feeling of, yeah, I did the right thing. This is awesome. There's no better time for you to get the introduction than right there. Say, hey, who do you know that I could do this for that would really help them, that you want to do a favor to? Hey, can you just call them, three-way them right now while we're on it, while we're thinking about it? They'll almost always do it. I mean, it sounds a little pushy the way I'm saying it right now. It even feels a little pushy for me. But I swear, if you can do that, if you can pull that off, you're going to double, triple, quadruple your business literally overnight with no effort, no cost. It's all positive. So it's really, really powerful stuff, and nobody does it. And it works so well. I don't do it regularly, but every time I do it, it's a winner. I've gotten some big, massive customers that way. I did that in my water park guy. When my water park guy sold the $100 million water park from a listing I got him on Google, he introduced me to a golf park or golf course construction guy that was 3 states away from him. And that guy did probably 4 times the annual business with me than the water park guy did. I 4 times my income just by asking for that referral. And it wasn't even a referral, it was an introduction. He literally called him, 3-wayed me on the phone and said, hey, I just sold a $100 million water park the first time ever because this guy got me on Google listed for water park development. Would you like him to do that for you for your golf courses? I didn't have to do much of a sales job. It was give me your billing information. I'll get you going. I'll put you in the system, right? So that's, that is a good way to do it. It's a good way to scale your business. And I know you all have these opportunities. If you're working with anybody and they like your work, you have these opportunities. You will get this, and if you're just getting started, you're going to get these opportunities. Just have your eyes open and watch for them. Be aware of them and take advantage of them when they present themselves. Don't let that water flow under the bridge. It's hard to chase down the stream to get it back under the bridge again. So I hate chasing water that's gone down the stream. All right. Anything else before we wrap up here? You guys have been pretty quiet today. You're putting it all on me.
We're overwhelmed by your awesomeness, John.
Well, I don't know about that. I'm just telling you the way it is. It's the way of the world. It's you don't really even need me to see it. If once you start looking for it, it will expose itself to you. It's the world that's awesome. I'm just hopefully showing it to you.
What you're basically saying, John, though, is that if you get your first customer, you track them very diligently. And as soon as they get a big win from what you've done, you get them to do an introduction for you, you're gold. That sounds like what you basically did when you switched from your photography. You had a client base there,
Yep.
But a client base that had nothing to do with online anything because it wasn't a thing yet. And you did come up with the big idea that got them. But once you got the first one going, I'm sure you just went down and knocked the dominoes down one at a time as they came along.
Yeah, I just went on down the list. That's exactly right. I've done it throughout my whole life. I've done that. I didn't really know it when I was doing it at first. It was just kind of intuitive. But, now I'm very aware of everything. I'm very aware of how things work, what I do. If I do something that doesn't work, guess what? I don't try that again. I try a different angle. And that's the whole big idea thing. That's why you need a lot of them, depending on who you're talking to and what you want to get out of the conversation. You need a different angle in many, many cases. So you got to get good. If you're going to spend time building a skill set in marketing, I would say focus on the big idea, because it's your attention grab. If you don't grab attention, you won't have anybody to talk to. And if you don't have anybody to talk to, it doesn't matter how good your sales program is. It doesn't matter how good your product is. You can't multiply times 0. So that grabbing attention, getting people to talk to, even if you've got a shitty sales process, you could have a crap product. By sheer volume of the numbers, you're going to make enough sales to survive. That's kind of sad to say. And there's so many people out there that sell absolute crap, and they make a good living doing it. And that's kind of horrible and sad. But like, I look at the SEO guys that are out there. There is a ton of guys that sell way more SEO courses and training than I have throughout my career, and they're absolute garbage. It's just they did a better sales job than I did. It wasn't that their product was any better, because their product was absolute crap, but they were able to sell the hell out of it. It goes back to the whole snake oil salesman. I was never that aggressive. I never needed, I never blew money at the rate that most of them blow money, is the truth. Like Frank Kern, he lives high on the hog. You'll see him in $1 million houses and, $200,000 cars. And the next thing, he's lost it all. He's broke. And now he's doing another sales job to get back on top. I never lived like that. I never missed out on anything. I've had anything I've ever wanted in life, but I never lived like crazy out on the lavish edge. I just never saw the point in that. I was never, one of the look at me guys and, I'm great because I got all this shit. That's not me. And a lot of the marketer guys, when I see them open up and they're showing their mansion and all their fancy cars and all that stuff, I'm like, you should just grab your wallet and run. You should just flat run.
Except that's one of the big ideas that sell, particularly in MLM. MLM, you sell the product, you sell the guy that did it, or you sell how much money you can make. One of the three, or if you've got all three, that you're in great shape. But that's one of the big things that they sell, because the people want to chase those brightly colored, fast moving objects,
Yeah, what they're doing, they're selling a dream. It's just the dream they're selling is wrapped in a tube called a pipe. It's a pipe dream.
John, I'd like to mine your big brain, if I may.
Okay.
You've been in SEO since before it was SEO, and you've watched the evolution. What currently do you see as maybe the top 3 big misconceptions about SEO that people are successfully selling that really don't work for SEO, but they're guys out there selling programs or whatever? What do you see as maybe the top 3 myths for SEO?
Oh God, there's a lot more than 3 of them. The big one is, they're still selling link building as the end all be all. And they're right to a certain extent. And I don't know if they just don't know or they haven't figured it out yet, but the value in links is not what it once was. There's a lot of things about SEO that are fundamentally the same, but the rules and the guidelines have changed. Like with SEO, there used to just be two pieces. There was two pieces that were real, and that was on-page optimization, which comes down to your code. It's how many places the keywords show up in your code of your website when you build it, like the titles, the descriptions, the H1 tags, all the header tags, all that stuff. And that is still important. One of the big myths is that doesn't work anymore. Well, that's not true at all. They still have to look at your site to get a premise of, is this thing even a player, right? If you have garbage code, you're not going to qualify on that list of being a player, so you're not going to get to play. So that's a big misconception. The other thing, another big misconception in the on-page optimization is why it is important and what is important about it. The title and the description, I still believe, are the biggest, most important things about your on-page optimization, but for a different reason that they first were. They first were important because they had the keywords in it. That is not why they're important now. They're important now because it's the key to clicks, which is the third part that came into SEO after the first two, and that's the user experience. So your title and your description is the only thing that you have to get somebody to click when Google puts you up on the first page or whatever page they put you on. There's 9 other people on that page, and somebody is going to get clicked. And the only tools that you have to increase your click-through is your title and your description being compelling, getting someone to click you, choose you over the other 9. So that's why that is important. Again, it's getting down to the nitty-gritty of the why about everything. Not just the what, but the why. The why is much more important than the what. It's like, being focused on what your customer wants is one thing, but being focused on why they want it is a much deeper meaning. You'll be much more successful if you focus on the why in all aspects of business. Not the what, but the why. It's the same thing when you go to off-page optimization. This was in the beginning. It was on-page and off-page. Off-page was all about popularity. It was about how many people link to you for a particular keyword in the link phrase. They called that the anchor text. So when the game first started, it was he who had the most links with anchor text was going to win. Just that simple. Then, that was a very easy system to game. Google realized that, so they had to kind of change the rules. And now with artificial intelligence, it has nothing at all to do with how many links you have, but now it has to do with how many clicks do those links get and how many people follow that link to the site and remain there and give your site a good user experience. So if you're link building, the big myth is you need a lot of links. The truth is you need a lot of traffic from those links or they're worthless. So those are the 2, the 3, the however many. That's the big ones in the on page and the off page. And then the third one that just came into the system a few years ago is the whole click-through ratio, the bounce rate, the time on site. That's all about user experience. And that's where their AI, their Google Rank Brain, is really ruling the world. It has made it to where Google doesn't have to worry about SEO scammers and spammers anymore because they have Rank Brain guarding the door. You can fake Google out with the on page and the off page, but you can't fake them out with the user experience. That's where the money really meets the road.
So Rank Brain has kind of blown out all the traditional, because right now, if you go and look up SEO and drill down into what it is that they're actually promoting, what are they saying that will actually make your site rank, or what they can do for you to make your site rank? And it's all about content. They don't talk about optimized content or relevant content. They just say content. And the other one they do is the link building, because those are the only two things that they, at least in my opinion, I guess I'm asking for correction if I'm wrong, is that they're saying if you do those two things, we can get you ranking, and it'll do it because, well, quite frankly, those are the only two things they can do. And with what you've just walked through, that doesn't make much difference anymore. Is that what I got right?
Well, they're still right. It's just the reason that they're right is wrong. It's like the link building. Yeah, links are still important, but not for the reason that they once were. They're important to bring you traffic. If they don't bring you traffic, they bring you no results. Same thing with the content. The content is important now because of the user experience, the consumption of the content, where before it was just about the content because the machine would read the content and decide you were relevant. They're not focused on that anymore. They're focused on the reader telling them if it's relevant by how long they stay and how often they click and how many times they come back. So you see how it's still right. It's still the same thing. It's just for different reasons why. That's why the why is so important in everything.
This is why also since day one, Google has never changed what it is that they want and all the stuff that everybody's focusing in on with regard to algorithms and changes and updates, and all, because that's the one thing that they can talk about. But what they don't talk about is that none of that matters unless it supports Google's primary thing, which is to get eyeballs on their advertising network.
Yeah,
and if you don't understand, it's the advertising network they want eyeballs on, just like like you said last week, was, a newspaper or a magazine. Newspaper and magazine, all they have content and all that stuff because they want people to buy the magazine and sell the magazine for the advertisers that are inside it. You got to get that two-step relationship correct.
Yeah, I've said this from day one in SEO, and it's still true, as true today as it was the first day I said it. If you do the SEO the way it should be done from the day one that you're doing it, you'll never have to change it. It will be evergreen, and it has been. And those standards were set by Yahoo. Yahoo set the standards before Google was even a thought. Yahoo put in place the standards for optimization for the customer experience. And it started with the navigation of the site. It started with the construction of the site. And, if you go back to my earliest lessons, I broke it all down of what the Yahoo standards were of how to build a website. And those are still absolutely right on the money for on-page optimization today. It has every piece of the puzzle in it. So if you did it right from the beginning, it wouldn't matter which direction Google changed, wouldn't matter how they turned their algorithm, twisted and turned it and tweaked it, you would still be right on the money with exactly what they wanted, no matter what.
That's really critical. That's a great piece. I didn't realize that went all the way back to Yahoo. When was that? I mean, that was
Yahoo set the standard. If you wanted to be in Yahoo, when Yahoo started, they were not a search engine. Did you know that? Yahoo was an alphabetical directory. And it was just like a big business directory that everybody was desperate to get into. And nobody knew how to get into it. And they didn't know how to get themselves to the top because it was an alphabetical directory. And you would have to submit your site, and they would personally, manually review every site before they included it. So if you changed your name, this was something early on, they found that people were trying to game the system. They were changing their business name to AAA whatever, so they could get the top listing in any category because it starts with A, right? So they'd go AAA plumbing. Well, what Yahoo did was they would literally call the business. They would call the phone number on the business registration. And if you didn't pick up and say AAA plumbing, they just hung up and they blackballed you. And once, yeah. And once you got blackballed, there was no way back. Your business was off forever. And people were freaking out. They wanted to get in. They were getting blacklisted by doing all this weird shit, and they were freaking out. And I came up with the first optimization tactic in getting an alphabetical listing in a directory that still works today. And what I did was I said, don't change the name of your site. Don't change the title tag of your site. I said, leave it. Like, we had a customer, our water park guy. He was one of my first clients in this whole thing. His name was Water Ventures, and it was waterventures.com. So I'm like, I got him number one in an alphabetical listing with his name being Water Ventures. And the way I did it was you had to have your title tag had to match your business name. That's why in WordPress, it defaults to your business name in the title, and then it goes on to whatever the keywords are. That's the default in WordPress. And this is why. It's because of the Yahoo standard. So you had to have your business name in your title when you submitted to Yahoo, or you'd get denied. You wouldn't get blacklisted, but you'd get denied. If you tried to game the system and you changed the name of your business, they would call to find out how you answered the phone, and then you would get blacklisted if you tried to manipulate it. So with the Water Ventures, what I did, I said, no, we're not going to change the name of your business. We're going to keep you Water Ventures. When I did their title tag in their website, I used the tilde sign, which is the top left key on your keyboard. It's alphanumeric number 1. It's just a little squiggly sign. And I put that in front of Water Ventures, almost like it was I don't know what they call them, but in the language, in human language, it was like an apostrophe. That's what it was looked like, to enunciate something. And I put it in there. They didn't question it. They put it to the top of that directory, and it remained there for the rest of its life. It was never questioned. I did it for hundreds of clients. I never got caught, and it never got overturned. It still works today in an alphabetical directory. That is an optimization black hat technique that I did 25 years ago that never got caught. Still remains intact, works perfectly today.
Remain silent for a moment, John, to let that sink in. Okay, now then the key is if backlinks are still important because of the traffic they generate, the question becomes then, how do you put out links that will actually get traffic coming back to your site? And I'm guessing that has to do something with a thing called what, a big idea? Or
it's actually, yes, you're right. You're absolutely right. That's how you get people to click. But an even bigger thing than the big idea is you've got to put that link where it makes sense. You have to go where your traffic is. And that's where, I've talked about this in several of the most recent calls, is finding who has your traffic. What websites is your traffic on, and reaching out to those webmasters. It's called outreach link building. You reach out to the webmaster. You say, hey, I've got some really good content that your audience would love. Would you like to post it on your site with a link back to me as a reference? And generally, if they're in it to help their customers and you've got something that their customers would really like, they'll say, yeah, I would love to do that for you. You can sweeten the pot by saying, hey, I'll give you an affiliate link, and if they purchase anything, I'll give you a commission. Now they're monetarily incentivized to do it. So you've got a paid link without paying for it up front. You only pay based on performance. I'd pay all freaking day long for people to link to me to send traffic. And when I make a sale, I'll give them a kickback all day long, twice on Sunday. So that's the link building you should be focused on if you want to kill it in SEO.
That is, I don't see a way of automating that process.
There is not. Unfortunately, there is not. That's a hard process. But it is the most fruitful process you're going to find these days in SEO. It's not only going to give you good ranking, it's going to make you sales. So is that worth fighting for? Is that worth putting a little effort in? Yeah, you shouldn't be looking at that as SEO. You should be looking at that as a foundational business tactic. For me, it's like what I do. That's all I look for is who has my audience that can put me on a webinar. I don't give a shit about the link. I just want I want the traffic. If they give me a link, that's great, but I'm going to make a ton of money off that webinar and then I'm going to walk away and not care. I have done these webinars where we had over $50,000 in sales in an hour. Do I care if they give me a link or not? I do not. I'll take it. I'll love it. I'll thank them, immensely, and I'll keep sending them money every time a sale is made. But it's not going to change my world if they say, nah, I don't want your content on my site.
Are you still willing to do presentations if we're finding people that will put you in front of their people?
Absolutely. Anytime.
I'm out of breath.
That's awesome. All right. Well, we continue to keep having really great conversations on these calls. Every time I think, God damn, how are we going to outdo that? We keep doing it. So, and it's all from your questions. So I'll tell you anything you want to know. You just have to ask.
Thank you, John. I really appreciate it. It's been incredibly helpful. And the thing about the links was very illuminating. That's not something that I've heard you talk about before. And I've been on just about every call for the last 11 years. So
yeah, it's the pure truth in SEO. It's the only truth left. Everyone else is still living in the past. They're living a fantasy. So, all right. Well, we will wrap up for this week and let you guys get back onto your day. I don't want to burn too much of it, but we'll be back on next week and think about what you want me to talk about then.
Cool.
John,
all right, guys, have a great week and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, John. Bye-bye.
Thanks, John.
Bye-bye.